Good evening and welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morris and I'll be your host tonight. I am the Assistant Executive Director of NAMI North Carolina. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness North Carolina. I'm so glad y'all are here. Thursdays with NAMI is our way of building conversations and building community around the topic of mental health. Tonight we'll be talking about psychosis. That's the state of losing some connection to reality. It comes with certain mental illnesses, typically bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, major depression. It may bring voices that the person can hear and others cannot. It may bring visual hallucinations or delusions, the idea that you're sure that something is the case. I know the sun will explode at midnight. I know that Nazis are following me, but other people don't have that same belief. So again, psychosis is fairly typical with the serious mental illnesses. It's not so likely to occur as the side effect to a pain medication, but that is exactly what happened to tonight's guest, Natalie Elliott. She was prescribed Neurontin by her doctor for fibromyalgia. After that, her life took a surreal turn. Before she knew it, she was hearing a goddess and demons talking with her. How did she survive that ordeal and reclaim her mind? We'll be hearing the full story in just a few moments. As usual, the first part of our show is an interview with our guest. Partway through, we'll show a video of the week, and then we'll spend time taking questions from you, members of our virtual studio audience, on Zoom and Facebook Live. Now we're going to have a word from our sponsors. Thursdays with NAMI is funded in part by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services through the Federal Community Mental Health Block Grant Fund. They've been great partners to us and we really appreciate them. Now, without any further ado, Natalie Elliott, our guest, is a homemaker with 3 beautiful children. She loves crafts, drawing, journaling, and writing. In the past year, she's grown into the role of mental health advocate. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we always start with this question. We like to hear about your background. Maybe you can tell us your story in a nutshell.
My story in a nutshell. Well, I was normal every day, run of the mill, go to work, come home, spend time with the kids, and then everything changed in a matter of 2 months. It went from kind of like a not today. Not today.
Yeah, night to day. So very drastic, very intense and difficult, I'm sure. Tell us what your life was like before that day in January of last year when your doctor prescribed Neurontin for pain.
Before I was having pains for the fibromyalgia, and I had been talking to my doctor about it. It felt like kind of like burning pains. But other than that, I lived a normal life. I went to work every day. I worked for Dollar General, which is a very high stress job. Spent time with my family when I could. And it just most of my time got spent working. That's the way for like the past 3 years that my whole life's been, is constant steady working for Dollar General.
Yeah. Well, retail is very stressful, the customers and keeping the pace and that long hours oftentimes. Sure. And you had lived with a bit of depression, but no severe symptoms like hearing voices.
Yeah, I've had depression since I was probably about 14 years old, and I've not had any severe depression symptoms like hearing voices or anything like that before. It's just been more your sad, your ups and downs of regular depression.
Right. And I learned in mental health first aid that people who experience major depression may have psychotic symptoms, but it's not the norm. You know, usually depression is, like you said, the sadness, the energy, that kind of difficulty. So tell us about your life changing when you started on Neurontin.
It was slow to start out with. The doctor prescribed it for me. And, you know, the first time I took it, I was like, you know, hey, I can tell this is helping it was helping the burning sensation of the pain. But I started slowly feeling kind of a little bit dizzy, and I contributed to that too. Okay, well, this is just a side effect of the medicine. Well, and then it got to where my reality started kind of slowly starting to shift. And so my reality started shifting with thinking that I was a goddess, and going through the whole goddess story. Well, I call it the goddess story, but it was telling me that there was people and spirits and demons and all that I was talking to, and I was talking to them on a regular basis. And I remember asking my friend, you know, I was like, am I going crazy? Because I'm hearing voices now, and I wasn't hearing voices before. So I remember like these key little things that could have said, hey, would have been a red flag, something's going on, but they assure me, no, you're fine, everything's fine.
Oh, so your friend said you were fine.
Yeah, they're like, you're fine, it's nothing. And
oh wow, she was trying to reassure you?
Yeah, she was trying to reassure me. Like, I even passed by, like, there's Broughton up through here, and I remember driving by there, and I remember telling her even that that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Broughton, and Broughton is a mental hospital in Morganton. And so I remember, you know, all these signs and my mind telling me that I needed to go to the mental hospital. But yeah, it slowly, like I said, it slowly every day it kind of kept building up a little bit more and more every day. Like with the stories, I got to the point to where I could feel like I was being touched, like it would feel like something was touching my face like this right here every day. And then something was like coming down over my face like this. And
what was it coming on your face?
It was there's nothing there. It just felt like there was like a spirit or entity just
wow,
just over my face. And then so I got used to that sensation, and then the burning sensation started coming back.
Okay, so the pain that their Neurontin got rid of is now returning?
Right, it's now returned, and I didn't contribute any of it with taking Neurontin. I had recently also had all my teeth took out and had dental implants put in, so I was already in a lot of pain from that as well.
Okay. So you mentioned the goddess story. Was there a plot? Was there some kind of conflict?
There was a plot to it. Supposedly, okay, what happened was there was a goddess and a god, and the god and the goddess were getting married. And like me and my friend, we were talking about it, and she told me, she's like, you know, you look lovely in that green dress. And I described that dress to her that she was seeing in her own mind. And so it was like a ceremony of them, and you could see the banquet tables and all of this, that and the other, with the the tables, the stone, like stone seating. And we were building on to this goddess story. So she, the goddess walked in on her love, and he was kissing another woman
Ooh.
that looked like her. And so she took off running, and she met up with a witch. And that witch and her caused an explosion. And that explosion sent the land's people, part of the land's people, to different eras and time of the world.
Ah, so did you think this was real, or you knew it was fiction, but you could hear the voices?
I knew it was fiction starting out, but it turned it into my reality.
Wow. And so you're writing it down and talking about it with people, and what did they think?
They told me I was fine.
Okay, so don't always listen to your friends. That's one takeaway.
They're like, you're fine. They're like, I was walking back, pacing back and forth at work, and I would be like going to the break room, and I would feel like a compulsion to draw. So like I would have to draw, and I would feel a compulsion to just start like writing out these sentences of what was going on, and you know, of whatever was going through my head at that point in time. I had to write it down.
Wow.
And so they were just seriously telling me I was okay and I would be fine. And I had like all these warning signs and symptoms, and even customers was like, oh, hey, yeah, hey, that sounds pretty cool. You're all right.
Oh my goodness. So what drove you to the hospital? Well, I'm not who drove you, but like something made you feel like you really did need help.
So on the day that I on the first time I went to the hospital, I was going to meet with the spirits, and I had went to the park, and I could feel like I was standing there and I was doing like this weird kind of matrix move like this. And I could feel them. And then I took my hand and I wrote "believe" out in the sand, but it didn't feel like me. It felt like them controlling my hand. So I took that as in that was God. Because so I went home and I was going to take my son to my mom's house. And the voices inside of my head told me that if I quit hearing their voices, that I needed to pull over my car. So I get to Kings Mountain exit and I stop hearing the voices. And I'm like, okay, starting to freak out because I'm hearing them. Now I'm not hearing them. And I'm like, do I need to pull over? Do I need to pull over? And I heard pull over, Nat. So I pull over and I pull into a gas station. And then I'm sitting there for just a second and I'm telling my son, I'm like, it'll be okay. Like right now they're telling me I'm going to die. And so I hear 3 times what I call the call of death. It said, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. I am death and I am here on behalf of the soul of Natalie Hollifield. What say ye? And so I was really freaking out about that and really scared. So I called 911 and I told 911 that I heard the call of death. And
wow, scary.
Yeah, so they sent the police, and I was telling my son, I was trying to reassure him, and I was telling him, I was like, if something happens to Mama, don't blame God, Mama, but I really don't know what's going to happen. So the police get there, and then I'm in the middle of talking to them, and like my voice just completely shuts out and cuts off, and I can't talk to them anymore. They have no idea why. I have no idea why. I know that sometimes with my psychosis that it would do that. It would just like completely cut out my voice, like I didn't have one at all.
Interesting. Well, what's
Um,
fascinating is that you've got the story and the saga and sort of compulsive behaviors, feeling like you're not in control. But then somehow your wise mind is telling to your son, if something happens to mama, don't blame God. So there's a lot of wisdom coming through, and self-care. You called 911. It's wow. I've done a lot of these interviews, and this is the first time like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, what is going to happen? Wow. So the ambulance took you to one of the hospitals, but it was a while before you got effective help.
oh yeah, the ambulance, the drivers, they kind of jerked me out of the car and they took me to, they thought that I was on drugs. They called social services on me. But the doctors cleared that up. And so that was the first time. That was on a Friday
Okay.
that happened. So I called my husband. Riley called my husband and told my husband that I was at the ER in Kings Mountain.
Was
Told
that
him,
your son?
yeah,
Okay.
Riley's my son, and told him that, you know, I was at the ER. They were running some tests, trying to figure out what was going on. And then the nurse come back in there and she said, there's a reason why you're feeling like this. You're really, really dehydrated. So she blamed it all on being dehydrated. And then they ended up letting me go. So my husband come and picked us up and drove us back to where the car was. And I finished driving to my mom's house.
Right.
That night, I felt like I was going to die. So because the voices were still there and they were still telling me I was going to die and that I had just had a close encounter and I was on borrowed time.
Wow.
So they told me to drink 3 glasses of water before I went to bed. So I drank 3 glasses of water before I went to bed. And I laid in my mom's floor because in case something did happen, I didn't want to mess up her house.
Aw.
And so that night, I remember laying there and my whole mouth like clenched shut, and a vision of my dad at a little lake house, and a little boy there was a fishing pond, and it had a beam of light shining down to it. And then all of a sudden, like I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this beautiful scene of what my dad had passed away in 2020.
Aw.
And I jumped up and said, no mortal should stare upon the gates of heaven, and ran to the bathroom really quick and stayed awake until like 4:30 in the morning after that. For some
You
reason.
thought you were going to go join your father? You thought you were going to die?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to die.
That's a lot. So I Googled dehydration and hallucinations, and apparently it can happen that severe dehydration will cause something. But that happened twice, that they diagnosed you with dehydration and thought that was the cause of your symptoms. Wow. In April, you finally, so this all started in January last year. In April, finally, you found a doctor who realized that it was a side effect of Neurontin, and they removed the drug from your treatment plan. And the voices stopped 6 months later. So that, again, quite a process, but things must have gotten better after the Neurontin stopped.
Yeah, they did. They've slowly gotten better. I met up with Diane, and I've been going to NAMI, and she's been helping me out tremendously. NAMI's been helping me out tremendously. So I've been trying to do everything I can think of to possibly progress to getting better. And so it's helping.
That's wonderful. And of course, you mentioned Diane Cresanda, who's president of NAMI South Mountains, the affiliate. She's also president of the board of directors at NAMI North Carolina. So very active, a lot of leadership, wonderful advocate. And I'm glad you found her.
Yeah, I'm glad I found her too.
Absolutely. So it took a long time to find the right doctor. What do you say to people who are in that process of trying to figure out what's wrong with them and it's so frustrating and they don't get the right answers right away?
Um, what I would tell them, it is a work in progress. I mean, it is a major process. I had to come up with coping skills to help me be able to cope because it's terrifying. I'm not even gonna lie, it's terrifying. So that's where the journaling and the drawing and all of that come into play, as and listening to music is a really big key and helping to block some of the voices out.
Mhm.
It was for me. But
Yeah.
there is sunnier skies.
Mm, it's a good way of putting it. Um, how was your faith affected by the whole experience?
Um, Before I thought that I had faith, but after all of this, I realized that I did not have the faith that I thought that I had. So my faith has gotten very stronger. Um, I wholeheartedly believe that Jesus helped me through everything that I had been through, and
Mhm.
I couldn't have done it without him.
That's wonderful. And of course, I always say, whatever your faith is, if you're Hindu or Muslim or atheist, we support that if it works for you in your recovery. Jesus is just so inspiring and light giving and love giving to so many people. So I'm glad that you have that support, spiritual support too. Um, what does self-care look like for you today?
Self-care. Um, my self-care looks like I make sure that I make it to all my doctor's appointments. I take time out to make sure that I'm de-stressing because some of this triggers could be brought on by stress. I talk to people. I try to make sure that I'm not isolating myself. Um,
Yeah.
I practice good hygiene um, because I know that's one of the things that sometimes your hygiene lacks whenever you're going through some kind of mental health related crises. So I do like a little checklist in my head every day of, okay, well, have I took a shower? I talk to Diane every day. I seek help from people around me if need be.
That's wonderful. I love that you mentioned the basics because those are the first things, those little things. Am I taking care of myself? Am I brushing my teeth? Am I showering? Because I live with depression too, and it's very easy to forget those little things, and then it kind of all catches up to you, and you just feel worse and worse. Um, so those basics, those structural things are so important. Thank you for that. And when we were on the phone prior to tonight, you mentioned triggers and knowing your triggers for psychosis. What does that look like for you?
Um, so I've hit triggers before, and when I hit triggers, a lot of times it'll like start to stutter in my speech and a little bit. And I have the other night I seen a visual kind of hallucination of like these yellow orbs. Um, I just had like a stressful day, and I told my psychiatrist about it. He didn't seem too worried about it. Um, but triggers, I haven't come up or I haven't found a whole lot of them that are trigger it. Sometimes talking about it will trigger, sometimes it won't.
Yeah. It seems like with a lot of mental health situations, just that the general stress level, the general, am I way too busy? Do I have too much to do? Am I in a situation where I feel like I can't win? Like all those things will push me up to that point where I'm just not functioning the same. Yeah. What gives you hope?
Um, well, my family, faith, friends, NAMI gives me hope.
Mm,
There's a lot of there's a lot of places to find hope. I look at things a lot differently now. As in, used to, I would think that things would have to come to you, but now I understand sometimes you have to go seek them out. So sometimes it's about me going out there and finding the simple little things in life, like even taking the kids to the park will rise up my hope.
mm, absolutely. Kids and trees and beautiful outdoors. I get that for sure. Um, So I want to share a comment that popped up in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing I'm sorry, the Q&A, not the chat. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm so sorry you went through this. I know someone who also experienced delusions on gabapentin, and that's a brand name for Neurontin. I think it occurs more often than any physician will reveal. You never know. Yeah, I wish that our system didn't have profit tied to drugs and medicine. That's just my personal view. I wish that the profit motive were divorced from all of it. I would have more faith in things like that. But thank you for sharing that perspective. And I agree with that statement that person shared. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up the interview part of the show?
I think that's
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for being so transparent and sharing your story. It is very fascinating. And I'm so glad that you found a support network, you found appropriate treatment and everything you need to move forward. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. Before we move to our video of the week, I want to give a big shout out to our #1 volunteer, our volunteers behind the scenes, Executive Director Gary Kreitz, and our intern from App State, the awesome MSW student, Caitlin Rita. All righty. So now we've got a fun video. A lot of our topics are heavy, so sometimes we go with fun videos. This is one of our former mascots for NAMI North Carolina, Roxy Morrison. Aw, aw, gotta have an aw moment. All right, that's our video of the week. Now we're going to be taking questions from you members of our virtual studio audience on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Question from Jody: were you ever prescribed antipsychotics? I ask because I went through some similar experiences and they really help the voices stop quickly.
so I'm currently on 2 antipsychotics right now.
All right. So yes, and although the voices have faded away, there's still the risk of them returning. Not to sound negative, that's just the sense of
Yeah.
what I got from your sharing your story.
Yeah.
Um, Anonymous question. Most of us can improve our diet. Have you made any changes to your diet?
Um, well, I don't really eat a whole lot to begin with, so not really. Um, Drinking, trying to make sure that I'm drinking plenty of fluids.
I'll bet. Yeah. I do notice my anxiety goes up with sugar and caffeine. I try to watch my sugar and caffeine. Not that I do a great job of it, but it is on my radar. All right. Someone asked, what gives you hope? You must have I must have not gotten to that question yet when they typed it in. From Diane. What is your favorite time of year and why?
My favorite time of the year is fall, and it's very simple. It's because I love Halloween and it's my birthday.
Oh, fun. It's also such a beautiful time of the year, especially out in the mountains with the color changes.
It is.
Yeah, a lot of reasons to love fall. All right. You mentioned art projects. What do you like to do and where do you get your ideas? That's from Diane also.
Um, I like to draw. I like to draw. I like to. We're currently helping out with Blue Ridge Community Hope, and that's helping with middle schoolers. So I come up with my art projects a lot on Pinterest.
Ah, that is a good website for inspiration, isn't it?
It is, and so I taught them how to make brown paper journal bags. Uh, Journal, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's a good idea. I've seen a lot of fancy journals that have the brown paper, but you make it out of the brown paper bags.
And it's really cute and simple, and it's got little pockets.
Oh, I love that. All right, I'm gonna have to look that up on Pinterest myself. All right, from Gary, what advice would you give to people who are being medicated and feel that something is just not right?
Um, I would say definitely talk to your doctor about it. Um, because when you're dealing with the antipsychotics and are just your typical medicines that make you feel like it's not right, you definitely want to not go like I did. And you definitely want to talk to your doctor because there's a chance those little side effects could equal something really big.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. You kind of want to listen to your gut. And hopefully most people don't have a misdiagnosis like dehydration twice before they get an accurate uh analysis of what went wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. A lighthearted question. What kinds of things do you do for fun?
Um, I go to Carowinds. I take we
Go, I'm sorry, you go
Carowinds.
where?
Carowinds.
Is that like a bar or a restaurant?
It's an amusement park.
Oh, fun. Okay.
My family buys season passes to Carowinds every year. So we go to Carowinds, and then like I'll take the kids out on picnics, and
Hmm,
we'll go bowling.
nice. Does Carowinds have rides like a big
Yeah,
slide or roller coasters?
they have roller coasters
Ooh, fun stuff.
and
Okay.
water park.
Oh, nice. All right, I'll have to put that on my bucket list for the summer. You're a giving person with helping your relatives with doctor appointments and so much more. Why is giving important to you?
Um, because I feel like everybody should give. I I I give because it makes you feel good. It gives you a self of accomplishment. Um,
It's good for your mental health.
yeah, it's good for your mental health. It's good for your overall self esteem.
Mhm, absolutely. helps build that support network too, if you're helping others. So then when you need help, you don't feel alone,
Mhm.
hopefully. This is a funny question. Do dogs get depressed? In parentheses, not yours, Peg.
Um, I think dogs get depressed. I've had when my dad passed away, my dogs were really depressed. They moped around the house and they were sad.
Oh, all right. Definitive yes. Um, this comment says, great medication experience story. Are there NAMI guidance resources about medication side effects and bad reactions? And are there medication problem resolutions? Generally, NAMI's stance is talk to your doctor about medications. We don't try to go there. I will say, as someone who's attended many NAMI support groups, I've gotten a lot of insights and benefited from hearing other people's stories, like Natalie is having the courage to share hers. You will get a lot of good information about what people experience in a NAMI support group. Keep the questions coming, folks. This is very good. Question from Jody. Thank you for courageously sharing with us. I feel like faith in Jesus Christ helped me through things I've been through also. But sometimes I worry about getting too preoccupied with religion. Is that a challenge you've ever faced? And if so, how did you deal with it? Thank you so much.
Um, no, I see it as in the closer I get with as far, well, for one, I don't see it as technical religion. I see it as in I'm just a follower of Jesus. And the whole purpose is to be as close to him as possible. So
Sure. Yeah, and it's such a comfort to so many people to have a religious faith or a religious community. Some people are more spiritual on their own with meditation, walking, time with nature. Other people find a faith community. I do know that if someone is prone to hallucinations, they can be religious in nature. That's a fairly common theme. Um, so maybe thinking that I am Christ or that God is upset with me. It's not unusual to have that as an object of focus or even fixation. So that's definitely something that a lot of people experience. So after being misdiagnosed twice, this is from Anna, after being misdiagnosed twice, what or who would you say was the person that helped you advocate for yourself? And who do you feel was the first person who started listening? What advice would you give other people that might be in that situation?
um, well, the third time when I went to the hospital, the voices in my head told me I had an aneurysm that was going to bust and I needed to go get medical help immediately. So that would be the first time that the doctors actually started listening to me at the ER in Spartanburg. Then their psychiatrist, psychologist, he took the time out to actually listen and to what I was saying, even though it was very choppy and trying to understand and help with what was going on. And then they sent another one in the next day. And so I feel like that was be the first time that they listened to me. And then as soon as I got out of the hospital, I actually called Diane. So NAMI would be the second one that actually listened to me.
And you went to 2 different or 3 different hospitals?
I went to 3 different hospitals.
Right. So you were really trying to get different opinions, get to the bottom of it. And did you in fact have an aneurysm, or it was all the Neurontin
No,
talking? Okay.
it was all I did not have an aneurysm.
Okay. Thank goodness for that, right?
Yeah, it was all just the voices inside my head talking.
Yeah. Wow. So twice you were misdiagnosed with dehydration, and then finally you had two doctors speaking to you in 2 days at a hospital, which is that rare? I mean, that sounds like a lot of attention, which is what you needed.
Um, One of them was telehealth and the other one was in person.
Okay, okay. I hear many stories, and of course, I probably hear I hear the bad experiences more than the good, but I hear a lot of stories that people go to a hospital and they may wait days in the ER for one thing. And then when they're admitted, they may not see a psychiatrist for 24 hours or longer, or they get very little time with the doctor. So, um, lot of challenges in finding the right care in mental health. But thank goodness you finally got what you needed, and you're here today with us now, telling your story. All right. Do you feel that you are receiving better treatment for your mental health, and what helps with that?
Um, I do feel like I'm receiving better treatment for my mental health overall. Um, I go and I see the psychiatrist every month, and he talks to me and he makes sure that he listens. Um, so
Good.
he wants to know exactly what my medicine's doing, and so he does really, really well. And I'm
Mhm.
lucky, and he's the first one that I got placed with outside of the hospital.
Oh, okay, good. One more question here. What does your treatment look like now? Is it in person or telehealth?
Um, Now it's still telehealth. I go to family preservations and talk to them, and then they set me up with telehealth.
Oh, okay.
Same doctor every single time.
Oh, that's good. So you don't have to mess with the technology or worry about a connection. I know in the mountains, those internet connections can be more difficult.
Mhm.
All right. So did the doctor in Spartanburg test you with a CAT scan or MRI in response to your thought that you had an aneurysm?
They did. They gave me a MRI.
Okay. Well, good. It's good that sometimes you hear stories about people not being taken seriously. So I'm glad that they did listen to you and that you've continued to get good care. We have a lull in the questions. We've got plenty of time, folks, so don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to make some announcements while we have this lull. Please join us next week. We've got a gentleman named Ryan Mayer, who was a police officer, decorated officer for 13 years. He didn't realize, he couldn't identify the symptoms of his own mental health condition, which was bipolar disorder. His greatest commendation was for saving a suicidal man. He sat outside in the freezing cold with the gentleman, talking for hours, and finally they walked out of the woods together. He didn't realize that he himself would be attempting suicide in the future. Join us to learn how he got the help he needed and how he stays well today. When you leave the Zoom call, please fill out the survey. It should magically appear on your screen. If it doesn't, I apologize. I don't know why that happens, but people tell me it does. It helps us improve over time. It helps us show our value to our funders. It means a lot. So please fill out that survey. It's very brief, just a few questions. And again, we do have time if you would like to ask or share something with Natalie. In the meantime, Natalie, is there anything you'd like to add or any follow-up thoughts or something we didn't ask tonight?
No.
Okay. And I asked you this before we started recording, so I'll ask again if you don't mind. How did your kids do with all this?
Um, they were scared at first. Obviously, something different was happening to the mom. And now they're doing okay. Now they're doing really well. My oldest daughter is a mother. She mother hens me.
Can you give me an example of her being a mother to you?
Oh, well, take like last night, like I was asleep or I was going to sleep, and she took and covered me up.
Oh, Oh,
And
that's adorable.
yes, on the forehead.
She tucked you in.
Yeah.
That's nice. Do you think that I mean, what strikes me about that situation is that now if they have a friend who develops a mental health condition, they'll know what to do. They won't run away like so many friends do.
Uh, I've lost a lot of friends to this happening.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's so common with mental illness. We say it's not a casserole disease, right? It's not like cancer where people will just, you know, swarm to you and circle you, give you care and casseroles. It's you learn who your true friends are.
You do.
Right. All right. Well, I'm not seeing more questions. It's been wonderful to talk to you, Natalie. I appreciate you so much, your transparency and your courage. And I'm sure this does happen to lots of people. Um, a comment from Anonymous. I wish love and great health for you and your family. Thank you for sharing your story. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. And if you're out there feeling alone, if your own life has gone sideways and you're not sure who will understand, please give us a call at NAMI. Thanks everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, Natalie. Thanks again.